I had on the agenda was the Green Team grant, just to give everybody an update. This was the $2,000 grant we got from Sustainable Jersey. And in the trunk of my car, I have this stuff pre-printed. There's like brochures and the recycling guide from Monmouth County. We used part of the money to pay for the workshop that we had on sustainable landscaping a couple weeks ago. And we still have this social media contract with Krista, so that's still ongoing. And last time we talked about the literature, we talked about maybe tabling at some community events. So I'm just going to bring it up again if anybody's interested. There's the Piano Plaza concerts we talked about. There's the movies on the beach. The Belmar 5 isn't for a while, but it's coming. So if anybody's interested, I've got in the trunk of my car brochures, recycling guides. I have some of the cloth bags we talked about. So there's things you can give out, including information, but also just like literature and stuff like that. So, if you're interested.
I just had a thought. There's the booth up on the boardwalk that gives out information.
Oh.
Is that the, I don't even know who it is.
It used to be the Chamber of Commerce. I imagine it's the tourism now, right?
No idea.
It's tourism?
I would think.
Maybe we could give them some of the stuff.
Sure,
They could have it there too, because I know, I tend to try and pick up a restaurant guide every year because there's always new places around.
What street is it on, do you remember?
I think it's on 11th.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's just north of the police station.
Yeah.
We just got started. We're just talking about giving out literature at community events. Do you know anything about the booth on the boardwalk where they hand out information?
Yes.
Could we give them our information to hand out?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. I have to apologize to everyone, because I am solo with the kids, so I only have like 15 minutes before I have to go to a Neptune soccer pickup.
Is there something you want to jump to in your 15 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
Floor is yours.
Okay, first thing, I can't remember if I forwarded to everyone or just to you, but there is that resolution about,
I forwarded it to everybody else.
Good.
Yeah.
Do we have an opinion on that?
Offshore drilling, do we, is,
I don't know if I got that.
I don't know if I did.
It was basically a resolution,
On the revised agenda, there's 2 attachments.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
And this is
Oh, I
one of the
didn't see
2
that.
attachments.
Okay, thank you.
It's, I think Bradley just passed it last week, actually.
yeah, I'm sure they did, because, John Weber works for Oceana. I'm trying to recall it real quick.
I have it here if you want to take a look.
Oh, good, thank you.
Sure. Just-
But the basic idea is there's been talk by the new administration about opening up areas, even I think 3 miles off of our shoreline for offshore drilling. And the question is whether or not we would be interested in recommending that the council pass a resolution opposing that. Pretty decent.
Yeah, so if you look at the attachments, there's a copy of the sample. And I think I saw in the paper that Bradley passed it a couple days ago.
I 100% expect that they did. I know that that was the plan.
So they're opposing the inclusion of exploration, like seismic blasting, offshore oil and gas leasing off the coast of New Jersey, and urging the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to prioritize the protection of coastal economies. So it's also like a tourism, besides the environmental impact.
There's environmental impacts, there's aesthetic impacts, like if anyone was opposed to the windmills for what they would look like, this is a very similar concern. So, that was my first question to the group.
So do we want to try to vote on this, or do you want people to have more discussion they want to bring to it, or?
Yeah, I'd like to ask I totally understand the portion about the offshore drilling, but then they had some other points in there. I forgot what those were. There were 2 other bullet points that they were asking. It was the protection of coastal economies, communities, and ecosystems by excluding exploration of new offshore gases from the final leasing, to oppose efforts to expand offshore drilling, and support policies that protect our oceans, coasts, and industries and community that are dependent upon them. Is that it?
I think so.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah,
there
it's a
was,
touchscreen.
and a copy.
Sent to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, the senators and representatives from our
Thanks.
state district. So this would be recommending that the council vote on it. It wouldn't be our, we don't have even voting.
Is it tied to a specific action that's gonna take place, or is it just generally
It's
being
a-
against?
Well,
it?
that's a good question. I think we're a little bit late, although putting in federal comments is always kind of a,
Oops.
deadlines are seldom as hard as they are purported to be, but the idea was to put in, submit the request for Moshiano is that we would consider, that Belmar would consider submitting it if we were to pass it as a comment on the proposed, I don't know if it's supposed to be a no or what, or regulation, I suppose.
Historically, it seems that New Jersey senators and congresspeople have been pretty much against this from when I looked up. It's not, it's been pretty bipartisan about not doing this, so.
Yeah.
You know, you want to vote? I think you're supposed to.
I will call a vote. All in favor? Aye.
All right?
I'm not a voting member.
Opposed? Any opposed? So we unanimously recommend the council consider it.
Okay, I will pass that on.
Okay.
And if someone has a link to the comment website that would eventually be submitted to, I'll see if SRCC would do one too.
That'd be great.
Great.
I mean, I'm sure they would, just we didn't know that this was
Yeah.
the thing, but if there's a comment period open for this, I'm almost certain SRCC would also send it out.
Great. Actually, my two other bullet points. Ed had asked me about the potential presentation at CLONET, and he had updated, I think, an older PowerPoint. I haven't had a chance to look through it carefully. I skimmed it. It looked like generally the same information that had been on the more updated slides, but I don't want to, like, I don't have my ego in this, and I don't appear to have my ego in this, so I just wanted to flag and see if anyone had thoughts in general after our meeting on what to include. Well, actually, we have time, we have like 10 days. So I guess we wanted to ask you guys to think about what you would want to include in a presentation to CLONET, so kind of there. And then I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on the meeting in general. Those are my three things.
The meeting that we have with the.
Yes, yeah.
So for the CLONET, what is the purpose of the presentation?
Educational exchange with other coastal lake groups.
So it's similar to what you presented last year, or you?
2 years ago, I didn't go last year.
Okay.
Am I right on the
There was some
timeline?
presentation I
I think
saw
you're right.
last year.
Yeah, I think it's.
That was 2 years ago,
Yeah, I
right?
think you're right, yeah.
So that original presentation became the basis of the one that eventually I did in front of mayor and council, which would have been expanded upon. And, but I think updating that or whatever we wanted to do to include.
I think that you have these slides, if you look on the drive, the slides, your slides are in there for the council presentation, I
They
think.
are, I just looked at
And
that,
we, what we'd have to do is have Ed update the data, you know,
Yeah.
so those slides can be easily done. And I think you give a nice story about what we did with the geese, right, which is a nice little
yeah. You made
success story.
progress, so there's that.
You know, and maybe what we're doing with the Army Corps and, you know, some of the, trying to think of the other things that we did around.
Well,
I just-
also sustainable jerseys, so that we're now bronze, I think there's
Yeah.
a
Oh,
lot of
that's a good
information on
point,
that.
Yeah, so I think,
And there was a press release on that, so I think there's some information there, I could try to find that.
Oh, if you could send
Yeah.
that to me, that would be
yeah.
great.
So who do we send this?
So why don't you send to me, so I have the original link to the
Okay.
Canva. I made that on Canva, so it'd be really easy for me to just go in and
Yeah,
update
and
it.
if Ed's gonna do it, the data's all in the water quality section, but all Ed's data just keeps getting updated in there, so it should
Just
be,
check on it.
yeah, it should be easy for you to just update, you or him to update the slides.
Ed tried to update it already, so you might have.
Yes.
Yeah, but he used like very old
Oh,
slides.
did he?
Yeah.
And we've just done the beach cleanup and
Yeah.
lake cleanup, so we have both of those, and there's some
Yeah.
pictures out there on that.
Good.
And, yeah, I think that you have a nice little story to tell.
I think
You know,
we
right.
have a nice little
Yeah.
story to tell.
Well, you'll be there, right? No one else is going, are they? You know?
I think so. If Lou was going to.
Yeah.
Well,
I was thinking about, I've never been, I was kind of curious.
Oh, I think you'd love it.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I'm
do.
going then, okay. That sounds good. It's just, it's.
And Ed said he wrote it and sent it in a while ago.
He was the contact, so.
Yeah, I know, well, yeah, and Justin wrote the both of us,
Mhm.
he said, cleaned up that one and sent it in.
Yeah,
Or
because they're the
updated.
contacts, because they do the collection, the water collection.
I think we've had a lot of progress, so I think it'd be great to release some of that and then
You know,
roll
this is-
into.
I would hope that Ed wouldn't send in a presentation for what we do here without us seeing it, so I'm hoping that that was just a placeholder.
Yeah, I think, because he called me today, I haven't had a second to call him back, but he called me asking if I had looked at his slides, so my guess is that he hasn't seen the
Oh,
slides.
okay, well, yeah, he said he sent it in, so, because I offered to help update it with him, and he he said he sent it in already.
And where, that presentation's on the drive?
The original, the one that
The old
Katie
ones.
gave at Clonet, and the one that she gave at the council's on the drive, right, the first, when you walk in, it's the first one's on there.
First door on the left.
So you can't miss them, and, you know, I thought the one that you gave to the council had a lot more information, and those slides seem to lay out perfectly just for an easy update.
I hope so,
Yeah.
I hope so. So, but we have a little bit of time. To me, I mean, I'm a, oh no, it's due tomorrow kind of person, so I'm like,
Yeah,
we have like 9 days, it's fine.
If you have Ed's presentation, if you could send that to us, that'd be good,
Yeah, I think,
unless you got it, did you get it?
yeah, I must have got it, I'm sure I could share it.
I think I saw it, it's actually, I didn't look at it, but I saw it, you know.
Yeah, I just took a quick glance, so,
I will send whatever I have, yeah.
third time driving that,
It's not easy being a parent.
Do you have one more, or no, that was it?
You wanted to.
Oh, that was, I just
Yeah.
wanted to hear,
About the
the beginning of probably of everyone's thoughts about the meeting.
I thought it was very interesting. I thought that the format was interesting. I liked the idea that they're just taking information. They're not judging anything, they're just collecting, you know, stakeholder information. Some of what we said was clearly just opinion, but that's okay. Some of our opinions might vary slightly, and that's okay too. But I thought, I liked the format of it. I think they seem very professional about what they do.
Yes.
That was encouraging. So.
It's a pretty standard project management approach that they took, that I've been using in my career for like 30 years. So it's pretty straightforward. It's very militarist, and it's very military based. I read their procedure. So they have a procedure, so they follow their procedure. And I think getting all the information, you know, the thing that I would hope to be able to do with them is that all the information that they were asking for is already on our shared drive in one way or another. So I'm hoping that they get to look at it and,
I've
you
been
know,
sending them that stuff all day,
yeah,
so.
because it's important for them to be able to, if you have a meeting like that, it would have been helpful if they could have populated all the stuff that we had already, sent it beforehand. We could have looked at it and then had a little bit more to go on, but I thought for a kickoff meeting, everyone getting to know each other it was a really good meeting for that way.
Yeah, I think it's good to go through that process, even though you guys have clearly thought through a lot of that stuff. And it was actually, you know, I think having been through corporate versions of that, it was actually refreshing to be part of a brainstorming meeting where there wasn't like a sponsor who knew what they wanted the result to be, and you were just going through the motions of getting everybody's feedback. Instead, it was like completely open-ended, and it seemed like, I think that was a good place to start, even though you guys who have lived in details might have felt like we were reviewing stuff we've already talked about. For me, as an interested person who's not immersed in the details, I thought it was good to go through it stepwise and really think, like, are we thinking of everything? So I thought it went well from that perspective.
I think what will be interesting is when they come back, like what they heard. I was surprised they weren't taking as many notes, like if they're really good at not taking notes, and because they had like only 2 pages done and I was writing away. So I think if they dig into the, maybe they just wanted to listen and then dig into what's on the website. And so what will come back will be most interesting, what that looks like. And kind of how they decide some of the territories that we may be looking at, so, so I think that'll be, you know, the progress on that. I don't know, did they provide us with, like, when's the next meeting and how that?
I believe so. I mean, that's what they did this time. They did like an online meeting announcement.
Okay.
Oh,
Right.
Like,
So we
say
don't have
that-
to leave
is
the
it like
schedule
2
next
weeks,
week
3
until-
weeks?
okay,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
what I was looking for, I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
No. It's, I think they said the next piece is data collection. So that's where we were like trying to make sure they got into the share drive and get whatever we have, ask what questions they have. We did, actually, Gary talked to Joe Rumler. I don't know if you know Joe Rumler.
Yeah.
So Joe was in charge of the water department right after Sandy, and his recollection is that pipe to the ocean was functional.
And that's why.
That was, to me, that was the big
that's
bomb
why-
that
Yeah.
dropped. That was very cool, Gary.
That's
Yeah.
why, you know, that's what happened when you have OCD, retentive. And the town did this great thing. They put all the minutes on the website, digitized.
And you read all of them, we did?
Yeah, no, well, you have to just do a search, so I just
That's good.
searched, so I typed in Silver Lake, and I found and we also have it on the site where we have the news articles when the pipe collapsed in June of 2013. And then at the end of June, they fixed it, as the truck that we'd want to use again. It's red and white. I couldn't get I can't get the lettering out. And then after,
Detective
Mike
work.
Campbell said in the meeting, on the meeting minutes, that, you know, they fixed it, it was as good, if not better than before, and then we're gonna put the valve in. They're gonna put a new valve in. I spoke to Joe, he believes the valve was put in. And then I'm pretty confident that that probably ran until, you know, until A Street was up and running, and it either just stopped working for one reason, stopped working for one reason or
How do they know that it
another.
doesn't work? Is it literally just,
They
stop
just
running?
They stopped testing it because they had a new.
They had the FUA
another
out there.
pipeline.
Can you imagine for all of this, all it
Works.
takes is like.
But it represents a totally different way of maintaining that lake. And if you
Yes,
have
it
both
does.
alternatives, then you can ask the question, which one should we do? But, I don't mean to sound like a skeptic, but if you open up that pipe and you release water from the lake and it has bacterial contamination, it could affect the swimming beaches. You could have the swimming beaches shut down. You do a release
But
and it's on
that's what
that
we've
day.
had all the time, right? Wasn't it always released?
Well,
prior to
I don't know
this?
the
There were
history, but I
beach
know that
shutdowns, though.
it-
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's the potential for wanting to go through the Avenue A long-term, which means it's a freshwater lake, so when you release, it's going in the channel and not
So,
right where your revenue-generating beach
So we have to-
is.
Well,
I think
mean,
that's a
my-
reality
I
that we
say-
should recognize.
The more I've been thinking of it, the more I feel like my ideal would be that it was one way coming from the
Yes.
ocean and one way going down A Street,
yeah.
you know? But, I mean,
I mean,
not a
it's-
scientist,
you know,
so.
That's
I
logical.
I sent you, you know, a summary of the research on what it takes to return a lake from a freshwater lake
I saw that.
to the brackish, right? It's something you have to do carefully. The USAC will know how to do it, Rutgers would know how to do
Yeah.
it, and we're able to get there, and someone will be able to tell us that information, because once you open it, you have to now have a balance of the brackishness that you have to monitor, right? So, because if you put too much in, you change the ecosystem, don't have, so it's that back and forth, but someone knows how to do this. And that's why we have the Army Corps, that's why if you get the money, you know, either through the CFP or somewhere else, we'll be able to hire, you know, Rutgers or someone else and say, here's our options.
Yeah, it's not for us to
You
figure
know,
out.
because
It's
I
for the
agree
experts.
completely with you, is that you would just have a one-way coming in, and then, because right now, the way it was explained to us the other day, is that it flows out into Shark River. It's a one-way valve going out into the river, but it's
Yeah.
regularly opening, so you're getting a flow. So if we could have a flow that can be monitored and controlled, that's something that the experts could tell us. And I'm, you know, where the key comes down to is what type of shape is that in, how much maintenance do you have to do to keep it open? Will it meet Army Corps, you know, because the Army Corps is one who have to approve something going into the ocean, right? So would it meet the current specs? There's all those things that I'm hoping that Maya and Reagan will lay out for us as part of the information gathering that says, here's how you have to make this best decision.
But I think we need, if it wasn't clear enough already, and we'll see what they come back with, I think we need to make it clear, that big, which one are we gonna do? You know, rather than go like, this is how the lake is now, how do we make it better? But if we still have the decision to make of like, is it gonna be a saltwater lake or a freshwater lake? And you probably need to do the whole evaluation almost twice, right? Over 50 years, is it gonna be twice as hard to maintain as a saltwater lake with two pipes working instead of a freshwater lake where the flowing in is the stormwater and the
But
flowing out
I
is the
think
pipe?
that's part of what they're gonna come back.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I mean, for us to just say
Yeah.
we want it one way or another is also hard, because we're just,
Yeah.
you know, we're not experts. So hopefully they'll come back and say, because you kept saying restore is what
Yeah.
So
the process is.
the challenge becomes.
The
is
other
that-
thing, just real, to your point though, the other thing I thought was really helpful is reminding them that all these lakes have had a lot of experience, right? So they didn't really know that, and I think
Yes.
you pointed out the one that they actually worked on. So
Yes.
hopefully what they're going to do is not start from scratch either,
Yes.
and they're going to look at what was done, even though we have a
Yes.
different problem, they'll be able to look at the issues.
And that's why we've been sending them all this documents.
Which I think is
So-
great.
There's like a whole thing from the Army Corps about the back bays and the coastal lakes. There's a whole
Oh.
study from Dr. Sousa, and we're shipping them all this information.
great.
And stuff about Deal Lake, stuff about Red Pond, like whatever we can find, so they can do research.
Part of the deliverable they've said very explicitly, I think it's in writing, is not just one plan, but also alternative
Right, I
plans.
saw
So
that, she referred to that a lot.
I'm sorry, I have to go, and I remember my other thing. My other thing was that I had been talking to officials from Avon and Bradley about their plastic bag collection. And I don't have their final, like, basically they're getting back to me on exactly what companies they're using, what it costs or doesn't cost the whole shebang, so hopefully in our next meeting, I'll be able to give you guys all the specs on that, and we can
Good.
decide if we wanna make a recommendation there.
That's great.
Okay,
Okay,
So-
thank you.
apologies for being a whirlwind.
As
Thank you all for your hard work.
As you're walking out, just so you know, is that the deal group went through the same discussion. All that work is in the deal folder. The same thing with Rec Pond. Rec Pond was back and forth, so, and you're saying the Army Corps, so it's all there. They just have to say, take all that information and apply it to ours, because you, different size lakes, different size back bay things going on,
Oh, yeah, there's
so-
different problems, but
it's-
at least
yeah,
it's learning
it's-
curve as to what they
it's-
went through,
yes.
and what worked and what didn't
Yes.
work for some of the
And
problems.
Sylvan Lake chose not to, because Sylvan Lake does have an outlet to the ocean, they chose not to open it, right? So they have, so someone just asked the Littoral Society and Captain Al why they did that. And so we could get all that information, they should be able to lay it out very easily, because I think I could, so if I can, I think they can.
I'm sure
I
that-
can probably, I will tell you that we had met with, what was his name, Marty McHugh, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We met with Marty McHugh almost 2 years ago at this point, and he had at least started that project at Sylvan Lake. And when he was presenting to us, he did it with the idea that we weren't planning on opening the pipe. Am I right?
I don't remember that part, but.
Well, I just remember him being like, it's gonna be a lot more expensive if you open the pipe. And then, so I'm sure, considering his background, that probably was a factor.
Oh,
Yeah.
most
Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
all right,
Okay.
thank you guys, apologies.
That's it.
Okay,
I think if you could, you went through the deck, I'd love to open this, because your background is in chemistry, right?
Chemistry and chemical engineering.
Yeah, right, so if you look at it, and with your background, I think it's there, and I think that we'll be able to, see what they say, and be able to really go back with them, back and forth with them. The first meeting was more them pulling from us, next time we'll go back and forth, I'd like to be, pushing, to them to say, here's what we want, from you. But
okay.
I was excited, the
Yeah.
fact that they came,
Yeah.
the fact that
That
we're
was
moving
great.
We
making
made
progress
progress.
is exciting.
Mhm. Okay, so just steering back for a minute, shape that we have the Army Corps, but we still have some grants out there, like we have this community project, I forget what they call it, but the federal budget piece.
Community project funding.
Yeah, so that's still an open question. That's like the bigger ask for money that we put in through the Congressman's office. We still have, I think there's another round with the National Fish and Wildlife Federation. So the idea is that we're just gonna keep applying to whatever grant opportunities we find. We're lucky enough that the town has a grant writing firm, so we've got the expertise there, and he's just collecting all of our information so that he's prepared anytime we find an open door, we just put in a proposal.
And
so.
he's gotten it's so much better than the first ones that we started
He
like
started
a
to
year and a
sing our
half ago.
song, yeah.
Yeah, he writes, he's got the whole thing now, and he writes it, when you write something, you think you wrote something good, and then they make it better?
Yeah.
He's at that stage now, and it's
Well, I
really
think we
good
have
to have.
progress too, right?
So-
So we have progress and we have visibility, and now with the Army Corps, it just gets you, every time you do something, it gets more and more visibility.
Get more credibility too,
Yeah.
like with the next grant. So that's kind of where we're at with that. As far as, I'm just trying to put this together in a way that makes sense. So we talked about the Silver Lake. So I have on the agenda also to talk about Sustainable Jersey certification and the Community Energy Plan. The Community Energy Plan is a $10,000 grant we won from Sustainable Jersey to support a multi-year energy plan for the borough. So we started doing that, which was a matter of just sitting down with Kevin Kane and talking about it. And part of what the Sustainable Jersey held our hand through was applying for an energy audit for the municipal building. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about where we are with that.
Yeah, sure, so we have the application in, it can take 4 to 6 months for them to come back, but what will ultimately happen is we have 9 or 10 buildings in the town that will be audited, and they'll look at everything. We're gonna provide a lot of information on usage, how many computers they have, do they have, when do they last renovated, which most of them were not renovated in a really long time. And so they have a very detailed spreadsheet, and then they come out and they audit the buildings, and ultimately their goal is to help us understand how we can drive more energy efficient buildings. And so they'll come back with recommendations, both short-term and long-term, And I think the good thing too is there's actually then funding resources through grants that then, many of them require the audit before they'll give us access to that. And so that if they find that there's things that we could be doing more efficiently, they'll come back with those recommendations and we'll be able to hopefully go for the grants and be able to put that in place. So you see, hopefully what we then see is more efficient buildings, so it's better for the community, but also some cost savings if there are things
They
that
don't
are
do anything
not
with the
efficient.
automobiles or any of the vehicle, town vehicles that you
That's,
kind of
that's
audit?
part of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
They-
so it's not just buildings?
Well,
Well,
this
the
part
audit
is,
is the
yeah,
energy
the audit
use in
is
the buildings.
the
Buildings only, okay.
For Sustainable Jersey, where we are able to go in and talk about how we can improve certain areas. So Sustainable Jersey, I think we all know we got the bronze status, which was quite an accomplishment. Of towns in the area like Avon and other towns have also tried to get Sustainable Jersey out. You can either get a bronze or a silver status. And so we reached bronze this year. And there's different criteria within that, one of which is the eco, cars and those kind of things. So we did a really good job with what we think we can, what we could deliver against the criteria. Now we're at that next level. If we want to move up to silver, there's things that we have to do. So for example, talk to the police about eco vehicles and those kind of things. That'll get you points to that next level. And so probably one of the meetings would be nice to go through all the different areas that we accomplished and where we think we have opportunity, because there might be things that we can all work on to help us get to that next level. And I think Sustainable Jersey, what's nice about it is, Diane, they gave us a lot of resources to help us even apply, and the application was very detailed, and, Excel spreadsheet after Excel spreadsheet, and they actually put that on. And it also really gives us access to a lot of, their goal is to basically empower communities to really make a better future within your community, but it also gives you access to financial and resources that, they can tie us to. And I think it just elevates that conversation with anybody we're trying to. Now we have Army Corps, now we have bronze level, so it really shows that we're serious and that we're really making progress.
I have a quick question. Are there any criteria for the Sustainable Jersey certification, now in the future, that would obviously relate to the operation of the marina? Because I was talking with a Public Works guy who said, I became aware that there's a New Jersey Clean Marinas program that, if you look on the website, it looks defunct. It hasn't been updated for years and years, but when I talked to the guy, it was at the cleanup at Silver Lake. He was like, he was like, we have that certification, we're doing all these things, and I'm like, that should be documented. So we should be singing that a little bit, and maybe some of the stuff that they're doing, or with the renovation just did, updating the sewer pump out, is there stuff that they're doing anyway that we could be adding to our list of things that we're doing?
I think that's a good, so we stumbled upon a lot of things that we actually weren't doing that got us points. So it was nice to see that we were doing that, and there were other things that we're doing, but we're not letting enough of the community know. So I think that's why we've done a little bit more social media to get the information out there for recycling and for the cleanups and those kind of things, because that all was kind of an opportunity for us, was to let people know more broadly than we did. But we did stumble upon a lot of things that we're actually doing in a good way. So I don't know about that one, but I'm sure within the area of clean communities, recycling, I'm sure there's something there that would fit that. So.
And I don't know the details, but just when I brought it up with him, I was like, maybe we could get some kind of credit for the stuff you guys are doing.
Yeah.
He was like, there's no credit. He was like, we do this because this is how we do it, and he wasn't seeing that cataloging it and communicating it would have any benefit, which is kind of,
So
I got the impression
how do we find out
that,
more?
that if we could come to him and say, there's something that the Environmental Commission is doing for the Belmar Belmar, if you guys could share what you're already doing, we could check some boxes and get something good for the whole town. I tried to articulate that point and I totally failed.
Could we
But
find out more what they're actually doing? And
what they're doing, whether or not it's stuff that would count towards our sustainability criteria that they're just doing anyway, but we don't know because we never asked.
Can we get more detail on what they're doing and what the benefits are? And
I'm looking for some guidance from you guys as to how to have that conversation with them, so we lead with, if you guys take the time to have this conversation with us, it will result in this benefit for Belmar. I was failing to articulate that, and it's kind of like...
Well, here's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because we got this grant from Sustainable Jersey for electric landscaping equipment for public works. So we're gonna have to sit down with Bill Musto and whoever else
Yeah.
to go over the whole Sustainable Jersey funded purchase of equipment and training. So that would be an opportunity to
That sounds like a really good
become prepared
opportunity.
with like we check
I think,
Sustainable
yeah, I
Jersey
mean,
to
there's a
see.
very detailed list, and if I know a little bit more, like even if you tell me later about it, like this much, I could go to the areas on the grid that might help
I
those close.
have to go back to what I know, I was able to find the clean marinas criteria, but I didn't get much detail about what specific things we're doing in Belmar, just that they have the certification, they're doing a lot of that stuff, like I didn't get to the.
But is the goal to actually, like, to purify the water, or like what are they?
No, just the operations in the marina, sustainable
To be more
green
clean.
practices
Okay.
in operating marina.
Okay.
And it just sounded like almost the same thing as what we're doing across the
Yeah.
whole town, but kind of
Yeah.
like in its own little category. And
No,
like
that
these
sounds
things should be
great.
together, because maybe it would check some of the,
So I can
or
bring in a
add.
list next time of the criteria, the areas, so maybe even when you see it, you might see, because they're pretty broad, like, the topics are meant to guide you, but you can make it very broad, like all the cleanups help us with
Yeah.
recyclability.
You could go to sustainablejersey.com, I
Right.
guess, and it's right there, it's public.
Yeah, I just figured I would bring it up because
Yeah.
you guys know better than I do, but if I
No,
can.
I think that's
but
great.
Trying to make that connection, and also when the work is done here, you would think that
The benefits.
that we could kind of like, there was an opportunity, if there was a reason to communicate to everybody how sustainable and green
I
our
think that would
marina
be good
is,
for our
you know,
social,
like,
yeah.
the completion of the work
Mhm.
there and saying, all right, now it's done, our marina, you know, our docks are fixed up or whatever. That would be a good opportunity to be like, by the way,
Well,
we're a
that's
clean
what's-
marina here in this town.
And that's the point that you were making before about trying to communicate to the community about what we're doing. Because it's not just the public works that they're picking up, you know, the extra trash, but they're also doing really sustainable practices in our natural environment here in our town where we all live
Yeah.
for us. So there is that thank you. They don't get enough thank yous, so maybe that's a way to kind of frame it for them. And we just have to kind of get the actual details from Sustainable Jersey about where the credit would go and then.
So what is it called, clean?
I think it's the
Marina?
New Jersey Clean Marinas, I'll double check on it, but it,
Is it DEP, like who issues?
I think, yeah, it was connected, I think it was connected to the DEP website, because I reached out to them, because my first thought was like, do we even do this, do we know about it? I reached out to the guy on the website, and he's like, the guy who used to run this retired 3 years ago, and it's kind of still going, but not really, like, it was real ho-hum response from the people who were supposedly running it.
Yeah.
But when I just ran into the guy from Public Works, he's like, yeah, we did that, and I was like, great, so.
If you
I'll-
look at, if you look at Sustainable New Jersey, in the sections, there's projects, right? There's additional projects that you're allowed to get in. You just have to pick the topic, and I'm sure we could add the clean marina, and there
Yeah, I
are
think
like
we can.
5, 10, 15
Yeah.
points, those, you know, those
Yeah.
project things that
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a place there, so if, I think the answer is, what you're saying is ask Billy to say that he'd commit to giving us the time, and then we'll just ask, you could look at the section, find out where it is, because, I mean, all we need is a paragraph, and you have just to attach what they've done. I'm sure
Yeah,
that they
you can
have,
turn-
I'm sure they have
Some.
everything in terms of notes
Yes.
or
Yeah.
emails or, you know, the vendors they, the contractors they had in, so I think it could be an easy thing to get some additional funds, as you're saying.
We need the documentation,
Oh,
that's the part that I was, is getting it in the way, is
I just
having
did a
it
search
visible.
for clean.
Yeah.
But if we could get that, that'd be perfect.
Yeah,
NJ Clean
it
Marina
looks like there's a
.org.
quite a detailed website here. The other thing is Diane and I are gonna look, so we have to renew every 3 years. We have to make sure we keep up our status and hopefully go for silver. So we were close, so you have to get to 350, we had 225 points. And bronze has 150, so we were well over bronze, but not quite silver. So maybe in one of the meetings, we can talk about projects that if we tackle, and they're not really difficult, some of it is just finding the information, like, you know, connecting things, and some of it may be new information as well, but I think that would give us the ability to have enough time to try to get to that next level, which continue to elevate our status.
Agreed. And speaking of projects, and I don't know if this accounts for Sustainable New Jersey, but I'm definitely looking to get more information about the operation of McCleary Park. And just seeing what you guys went through with the meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, like sitting down and formally saying, how can we take this public resource that we have and make it better? That, you know, it's like long-term. Right
Yeah.
now, many of you guys are busy with the Silver Lake Commission, but I actually just ran into the two guys who were setting up for Friends of Belmar Harbor today. And they're tabling at the Wall Environmental Committee event that's happening on Saturday in Alair Park. And I'll be tabling there for Shark River Cleanup Coalition, which is the other hat I wear. But I was talking with them and I just mentioned that, there's momentum building for stuff happening in Shark River, and we started talking about McCleary Park, and they're like, yeah, there was all this talk about stuff that was gonna happen in the park, and then the pandemic came and it all went away, and no one's heard about it since then. And it just got me thinking that through this committee, not to draw on the resources we're using on moving Silver Lake over the finish line, but that's something that I'm very interested in, is the other side of town and Shark River. And so I'm starting to think about, when you mentioned other projects, like making a sustained effort to say, could McCleary Park be better? Or that there's information that we could have, if we could pull together better information about what's there, or what it could be, could we get grants? Putting a toll in that kind of effort, if that could contribute to our sustainable Jersey, then it's something I'd like to do anyway. Just basically applying the know-how you guys are doing on Silver Lake, but like long-term, because McCleary Park is gonna, if you guys get what you're doing for Silver Lake, that's the next thing, that's the next big opportunity in town, is to make that area all it could be.
Yeah, I've already tried to do some of that in the background of asking what type of money on the federal side would be available for something like McCleary Park, because Silver Lake is a water quality issue, right? So it falls in a nice category. So I asked them to go through some categories in something like McCleary Park, which is explaining that the bulkhead's a mess, right? So there's the bulkhead needs to update the bulkhead, there's native planting, there's,
Is that what they're doing now? Are they doing that now with the bulkhead?
All the work that's being done is fixing the pilings for the docks.
Okay.
So it has nothing to
that's
do,
not good.
to my knowledge, it has nothing to do with any of the bulkheads.
So there's some things that you could do there, but how you'd have to go through the whole, what's the status of it? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to get to? Where are we? And what, is it federal grants for it, or is it state grants? Monmouth County, there's all these areas that we'd have to figure out who to go.
Well, and I'll add too that from the broader Shark River point of view, and I explained this separately to Katie, there's momentum building with some of the other municipalities to either alone or together get some things done in Shark River, including shoreline restoration that could have a dredging aspect to it. And I know dredging is we have a lot of people in Belmar that have boats and that use Shark River or are interested in that. So I think there's momentum building for individual towns and all the towns together look at Shark River and say, what could we be doing better? And I've heard through the grapevine, and I don't think it's been officially announced yet, that another living shoreline project got approved in Neptune. They did one on South Riverside Drive, now they're going to do another one between the Shark River Yacht Club and the Neptune Marina. So taking an area where the water at high tide just comes right up to the road and turning it into a living shoreline, putting in a core, a berm, sands, grass, and you stand at the end of McCleary Park and you look at the just bulkhead and sand and debris that's there on Belmar property. I think that's Green Acres property. It's not just like any other thing. You can imagine something like that there. You got a dilapidating bulkhead that goes all along 35. It's falling apart. They keep repairing it. You see there's like sinkholes and trees dying. That if there's momentum building for people to look at Shark River and say, what could we be doing? And I know Captain Al and the American Littoral Society would love to be doing more projects like that. I think looking at McCleary Park and the other Belmar assets to the left and to the right of it and saying, what could we be doing? Like what you guys have done with Silver Lake is something that we should consider, or at least start laying the groundwork. I understand this is like 5 years long processes, but I think we're going to hear more about that. And to be honest, any project, anytime dredging comes up about Shark River, it's where's it going to be drained? And apart from the money, where's it going to be dewatered and where's it going to go? And Belmar, I think, has like a third of the acreage of the Shark River in its property, including the area that goes all the way around Seaview Island, almost all the way to where they're going to put in that big new development where Sunsets and Headliner is now. Like, there's Belmar property that's going, right next to a bunch of stuff that's going to be happening in the coming years, so I'm hoping it's something that we can start to bring a little attention to. Good things, you know, good things that might be happening, but also when someone's like, yeah, let's make an island with all the dredge material. Where's the island right now in Shark River? You look out there, it's Belmar. It's right past the edge of the federal channel there. That's where you can see the green grass starting to grow at low tide.
Condo Island's not part of Belmar, though,
What's that?
Condo Island?
Well, Belmar's property wraps around it. It's pretty, when they turned that from a shoal into an island with dredge fill 50 years ago or whatever it was, the Belmar town line goes right along that shoreline, all the way to the end, right where that north channel is by Sunset. So like, that's, Belmar like extends out. That's our property right there, and probably some of the seagrass and other like natural areas over there. So anything that happens in Shark River to dredge, you know, I think will directly or indirectly affect Belmar, and there could be opportunities for Belmar to contribute. Yeah, Belmar property includes all of this. If you, it comes all the way out to here,
Okay.
and then it comes over in this direction. But
What?
it's incredible
That's not
because you
land.
wouldn't know it's Belmar.
No,
That's not land, that's waterway, you're saying.
Yeah, it's all the water there, but
It's water.
if people are talking about dredging or making an island or where you're gonna put it, you know, like, you know, it has the potential to benefit or affect right over here.
So Seaview Island, that was a dredge.
Yeah, it used to be a sand shoal, and it was dredge material, and then it became,
Yeah.
you know, then it became a tax rateable for Neptune.
But they did,
Neptune, that's part of Neptune, so it's their shores are all Neptune shores.
Yeah, basically right to the edge of where they built is Neptune, but everything just past that is Belmar. It out, the whole area of water touching that on the, like to the west of it, not just the south, to the west.
West and south.
Our property comes all the way up like in the middle of the Shark River there.
All right. yeah.
Which you wouldn't know, you know, like it looks strange, but it's probably partly because when they built that island, that's where they made the line.
Also, Shark River is not a federal waterway, right? So it's up to the state.
Yeah, it's only,
and the
yeah, it's
to do it.
it's
Oh, in
state
the middle.
DOT and the towns in the county gotta figure that out. Well, those channels are not, the federal ones get done every year no matter what, but everything else in Shark River is all,
So the
you know, it'll just fill in if nobody does it. Someone's gotta get the state and the county and the towns together to do
to
it.
do the rest, but the federal does it every so often? Is that?
Yeah, I think they're doing it this year. There was some dredging activity.
That's when
this year.
that's when that ship goes,
Back and
go
forth.
back and
Yeah.
forth, yeah. All right.
Sorry, that's it. Already mentioned, so there's gonna be a green fair this weekend at Alair Village, 10 a.m. to 2. 10 a.m. to 2? I think it's 10 a.m. to 2. For the future, we'll try to keep it on the calendar because I think it's just the second year and there are a lot more organizations there. And I think that Belmar Environmental Commission should consider that in the future.
Sure.
What else is I gonna add? Talked about Friends of Belmar Harbor. I'll just mention real quick, for the Shade Tree Commission, thank you for connecting me with them.
You're welcome. Did you go there tonight?
I stopped by and said hi real quick, everybody was going in, and introduced my son. So my son lives in Neptune City and is trying to get involved with their attempts to turn their green team into an environmental commission and restart their Shade Tree Commission. And so he's over there observing their meeting, and maybe we'll do more things. So this is Belmar taking the good work that it's done and trying to seed other good things in other towns where they want to
Yeah, they.
understand our, you know, the work we've done to get to know how to do what they're doing already. And I understand that's happening with the Environmental Commission too.
They invited me to come to their July meeting to talk about sustainable Jersey in Neptune City. So I happen to have, my sister-in-law is a police officer over there, so I'd like linked her up, hopefully that she can also be their liaison person over there.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, she's really great. But, so we're gonna just talk about sustainable Jersey a little bit, about being an environmental commission. So, should be good. And also, I'm gonna piggyback on that because Evan is also helping out with Patchwork for Wildlife. Because Matthew's son is a junior, I guess, a rising senior, and so he's interested in interning, and he's been involved in a lot of Shark River Cleanup Coalition, he tells me, but he's also helping us out with Patchwork. So that's that Lake Como base, but now we're expanding it into Red Bank, Point Pleasant Beach and Belmar. And Evan and John Gibbons has been helping us figure out what the model is for Belmar. So we walked some blocks together to look at the yards more closely, to identify what are the things we want to congratulate the homeowners for growing on their property, or the way they manage their land. So the idea is that it's not just public land, it's private land, which is people's yards. And if we can kind of encourage people to be more sustainable in their practices, both with what they plant and grow, but also with how they maintain it, the landscaping practices that they use, the equipment that they use. So what we do is we have like a whole list of criteria, we recognize it on people's yards, we make signs, we go to the homeowners with the certificates to congratulate them and offer them any kind of support or information that we can. And Evan's doing the spreadsheet, so this is what they do with the data, is they upload it into this geo map that shows the locations of all the different yards and the communities that are being recognized. So they're like examples for their neighbors.
I just
So-
saw one, there was one on E, I think it is,
Mhm.
and she had the sign up front.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
Wonderful. And our efforts in Belmar to bring that program to Belmar, do we get credit for that for Sustainable Jersey? Is that one of the,
we should, we'll have to check it out.
You'll have to check it out. I think,
Because-
again, a lot of the ways we didn't get credit for the great things we're doing is because we didn't broadcast it. So, and it's gotta sometimes be more than just, so it can be newspaper, it can be digital. So that's why this year we put together a calendar. So one of the areas we couldn't get a lot of credit for, even though we have programs, was recyclability, because we didn't continuously talk to the community. So we have that on the map like 3 times. We know we needed to do that, so we kind of have a calendar, and we'll continue to update that of the things we need to do in order to get credit for it. To just finish out, because we have the programs, we just
right,
need to communicate more, so.
I think.
So we can find out if that one would do it too.
Well,
I mean, I'm sure we might be able to
There's gotta
fit that
be,
in or
yeah.
something.
That, I talked with John, and one of the things I asked him about, because this is what I do for SRCC, is I do the whole website for Shore River Cleanup Coalition, and I was asking about his website, because, my son has bandwidth and he has experience in doing that, but I think it's important, and John's busy and is very busy trying to do the work of bringing this to the other towns, but I think the communication issue is really
Would you
important.
like some social media posts?
Well, social media could be part of it, but I was talking with him about whether or not we could help update his website. I think making the connection that the town's getting the benefit of doing all the work to do Patchwork for Wildlife is connected to how well it's documented online, and how easy it is to go to that website and say, this is happening in Belmar, towns where this is happening, click Belmar, map. I think impressing on John that would be additive to his overall goal, and his website is, his website as it is right now is kind of like an online pamphlet.
Yeah, it is.
But for it to be easier to get to what towns this is happening in, and see like a Belmar section, and be able to click on the map and have the Belmar stuff pop up and that kind of thing. From Belmar's point of view, if you were open to coordinating about how to get either his website, it wouldn't make sense for Belmar to go through all the trouble making here's what we're doing in Patchwork website, like it should
No,
be
it would
his
have to go
website.
on- It could
Yeah.
go on a link on the environmental page,
Right.
it might be a little bit-
But maybe taking that angle with John, where it's not like, let's update your website because I like fancy websites and I think your website looks outdated, which I think is how he took it, but more
Oh,
our goal, Belmar's goal to do this and to get the credit for it and to get people interested in knowing about it could be served by updating their website. And Evan and I would do it for free. It's just, I could see him going like, this is just another thing for me to do, and he's busy doing really important stuff, so I don't blame him at all. But seeing that better communication through his website about what we're doing in Belmar serves what he's trying to accomplish, I think is important feedback, because, we can help him do it. And if not, then at least, like you said, making sure through social media posts and other stuff that we're communicating what we're doing, is in and of itself an important goal. Like you said, just that the fact that there's somebody's yard that has, like whenever someone gets awarded a thing, we should put it on the Belmar Environmental Commission Facebook page and copy his Facebook page or whatever, but it'd be even better if you could have a link from the Belmar Environmental Commission website to his website that talks all about what's happening at Belmar and how we are in the process of or have achieved establishing it here.
So how do we
The
make
one
that
thing-
happen? Like,
yeah.
what's the logistics of that?
I would need to convince John, I'd need to try to convince him a second time that us helping him with his website is worth his time right now. It might be over the winter when there's not a lot going on, but at least knowing that there's a obvious benefit for Belmar and other towns to have better communication on there, I think that would pique his interest more than my first attempt.
The one thing I would encourage us, and we found this out as we were working with Krista on things, is we definitely have the Belmar environmental site, so there's about 100 people on that. But then I think it's somewhere like 22,000 on the Belmar local site, and they're very open to us putting stuff there, so we've been trying to do both, because we have enough eyeballs on the other site. And so we still need to get to the 100 people that are really interested, but I think there's an opportunity for us to talk to the community more than we are through going through some of the other sites as well, which is what we're trying to do.
I agree with that, and I know we have a social media person that's working with us. or
Well, we
something
only
like
have
that.
her, I think, for
Like till
probably,
July,
yeah,
it's
so
just short
what I
term.
was gonna say is if your son is looking for, for example, we need to get more out on recyclability, and somebody has to write those posts and she needs content. So if there's things that he has time and he wants to do more social work, we have topics that could help us, and I'm happy to talk to you about that if he has extra
Yeah,
time.
yes, please. He has some experience doing that with me for SRCC, and I'm doing the same thing you guys just talked about for our website for SRCC, and what I found is that if you post a video, you get so much more exposed, like people
Yeah,
interact with
pictures,
videos so much. So, took a picture of the sand crabs crawling out of the ground over west of McCleary Park. And it got so many more hits than any static post I've ever made was just a still picture of something interesting. So if we're trying to get social media out about patchwork for wildlife, get a video in somebody's yard of like a bee on like a flower or something like that. And a 10-second video like that gets so much more exposure. We've gotten like additional followers, people liking that stuff, and Belmar Locals has been good about that. And I'll go and post directly onto their site.
Yeah, they told us to just,
yeah.
because I spoke to her and she just said, she'll approve anything that comes out that, of course, she
Fantastic.
doesn't like it, but she's open to us just doing that.
Yeah, so if there are folks going out anyway, doing the walks and looking at and evaluating yards, getting video and pictures for use for social media posts, kill two birds with one stone. And maybe working with John to say, because I'm sure he has content that he's used, singing the praises of the program in the other towns where he's established it, he might have just info from his pamphlets and stuff like that to like repurpose and repackage that a little bit. Yeah.
Do you think that Evan would be open to maybe, like, sitting down and talking to us about the logistics of this? Like what would be the best, like, what's the next best step?
Let me talk to him about
Okay.
it, because we're loading him up with shade tree stuff right now.
I'm
But
sure.
I think he would be interested in translating what you guys are doing anyway, going out and trying to figure out how to make it work better for communication for Belmar. I personally would love to redo John's website, but short of that, just trying to do things on social
Do
media
you
for
know how many
Belmar,
people go to his site? Does he have a?
I have no idea. When I go to his.
That's such content, it's
Yeah.
really worth making it in a format.
And
where
I
people go.
think when this summer season is over and it's the fall and he's not worried about people coming visiting his yard and programs and stuff, is the right time for me to bark up that tree again. But for social media for now, it could serve Belmar's purposes to communicate more in real time about the implementation of the program in Belmar.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to make that happen.
Well, like when are you how often and who is going out and evaluating, like looking at the yards that want to be
We
qualified?
finished all the yards from last year, so now we're accumulating another 6 yards. We're gonna have to go out and look at those yards over like in the next month or two.
I would say the next time you guys gear up to do that, maybe add on some time at the end to say, let's backtrack 3 yards that are already approved, where you're like, they have a sign or something like that. It's a nice day, and you've got bees and stuff, or, flowers flowing in the breeze. Especially if you have younger people with you who are always on their phones and taking video anyway, to do a dry run and see what it looks like.
Well, we're trying to work on some of the materials that John gave us to make it a little shorter or smaller or more visual or something. So we're trying to come up with a brochure, something like that, that could also be digital that we could share, like something we could give to people who live in town so they can learn more about the program or about native plants or some elements of this. So
I think the thing that got me to be aware of it when I came here was the training courses that he puts out. So he says there's like 8 weeks that he puts out training on different topics of pruning, it was different things. And then from that, we learned. So I think that gives people real value to start with, right? And
Yeah.
they want to do these things, and he always hit it at the right time because it was like the beginning of the season. It was still freezing when we went. But I think that gets a lot of people to, if you can do more sessions like that.
That's probably done for the year though, right? You know, like-
He usually did, it was like, we were all in winter coats, so I think it was probably like February, March, that he,
Yeah,
it's
4
nothing
minutes.
was.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, no worries.
No, that's okay. So the last piece of that is, John is working on materials about sustainable landscaping practices for homeowners to talk to their landscapers about, and then to try to come from there a list of local landscapers that are open to sustainable practices. And we're gonna try to work with Rich McCoy, who did that program that we had on that Saturday, who's a landscaper but not local, he's in Mercer County. So that's patchwork. And we really pretty much have gone through the, do you have something where you want to talk about? Okay. So that covers our agenda, so I think, anybody have any last words?
So the collaboration with the shade tree.
Oh, right, sorry.
So, we drafted a table of all the things like where we connect, you have it and Jim has it, so once we get an agreement on the areas, we'll assign someone from our commission and their commission, so they can just start talking to one another. There was.
Did you send that out to everybody, or did you send it out?
I sent it just to Jim and
Okay.
Diane right now.
I can send it out to you.
Because, well, just let you guys look at it first, because
Yeah.
I obviously always put too much in, and I'd rather have
We gotta
someone
scale
take
it
things
back.
out. Yeah, so, the areas are like patchwork, the Silver Lake restoration, McCleary Park improvements, New Jersey Transit Village, when that comes up, Sustainable Jersey, they can work with us on improving and maintaining the tree canopy in town. Our friends in Silver Lake, Spring Lake, just came out with a great announcement about what they're doing for their canopy. And we should be able to hopefully one day do something
That
like
was
they do.
amazing what they're
Yeah,
doing.
beautiful Belmar that they do, and then we have to have a town property, tree, shrub, and plant maintenance that we would be working, and then the communication, media work, and then also coordinating the planning and zoning board work that gets done. Because they're at the planning board meetings to try and ensure that the trees that they've taken out get replaced, and what they say they're gonna put in is gonna be put in. So there's definitely a link that they can do with what you're
Well,
talking
I would
about.
imagine the zoning board.
Yeah, I'm actually, so there's just things, all these things, so we're just trying to get agreement with Diane and Jim about here are the main areas, and then once that, we'll just send it out to everybody, whoever wants to do whatever they can
And
do.
then there was just one part of that too, which is that because Evan was going to the Shade Tree Commission tonight, I just had mentioned if he was interested to be like a communication between us and them, because we meet at the same time. So if he's okay with that, at least for the summer while he's still doing these internships.
Absolutely.
That would be
And
great.
I could be an assist there too. And any overlap between the Shade Tree Commission and the Cleary Park, I would say definitely sign me up. I wish I could go to both meetings at once, because I would be
Yeah.
asking them like, oh, have you guys evaluated? Yeah, who evaluates the trees in the Cleary Park and decides?
So the only thing that's going on is they're gearing up for doing the next tree inventory and analysis by the arborist. So Cleary Park's part of it. We already have all the trees documented in Cleary Park, it's on the website.
Right.
And we know the health of all the trees in Cleary Park, we know the makeup and everything else. I think all that information is gonna be good. What Cleary Park needs is a plan.
That's the thing that's becoming clear. And
Does the
it's,
Shade Tree Commission, do they do that?
No, they won't do the plan for Cleary Park.
Why?
They just worry about what trees are there
Oh.
and are they safe, are they healthy, what other trees should be
So
there.
they don't do a plan for new, like when the thing came out and said that they had trees that are available, like.
Well, all those trees that you see in there were planted by the shade tree
Okay.
over the different years. So some have grown up pretty well, some have.
So did they work on replenishing some of them, or?
No, that's not right now. There's other areas, I believe, that are there, but what you're talking about more is I think after we're done, or as soon as some things get done in some way, we have to do a similar thing from Cleary Park, the same way we
We're
did it.
responsible for the
Set
whole
up,
town, not
set
just
up,
the-
set up a little subgroup,
Yeah.
put something there. So
For sure.
I would like to do it. I will need a little more time before I think I'll be done with the lake. So,
That was my point, was like, I'm very interested in that, and I realize literally now is not the right time to start that in earnest.
But
Or
still,
maybe there's
we're
groundwork
glad you
that could
brought
be
it up.
done.
Yeah, we really wanna go in that direction too, so.
And maybe if, starting with the Shade Tree Commission, asking them, what evaluations have you done, is there evaluations coming up, and then from there, who makes the plan for what's happening in McCleary Park? That, like, that, is it us? Or is it someone in the town, and we have to go ask them permission to be part of the process?
Well, we
Yeah.
could
Or
recommend it.
can we ask the
for
shade
sure.
tree to do it? Like, could they, I mean, if that, if
Well,
that's
they
an-
don't-
they
if
don't
they're
do,
just
they don't do
trees.
a park plan. This is just like we have to have a
So you
civil.
said they put them in, so.
They just put trees, but the park plan has to be so that's what we have to do for the lake. The lake needs a management plan, right? We don't have what Deer Lake has, what Rec Pond has, what Sylvan Lake. The US Army Corps is hopefully gonna work with us and someone else to build
Right.
that plan. And that's where we wanna get to that point with McCleary Park, where there's a plan for it that covers the trees, covers the bulkhead, covers the steps down to the sandy area there.
Yeah.
And whatever it needs, we'd have to just do, it's really the same process that we started on the lake, just
Right.
do it again over in the
Yeah.
park and find
Yeah.
funding sources for it.
Yep.
And the, just like problems in the lake that make the need for a plan more obvious, that it's gonna be the same thing in McCleary
Yep.
Park with the
Yep.
bulkhead. If it isn't, one of those things is gonna wash out, and all of a sudden we're gonna have a sinkhole there, and I guess they could fill it in and patch it up, but like, it's coming.
Yes.
Whatever that is coming. And, taking what we've learned with Silver Lake and applying it
Yes.
to McCleary Park is,
It's like, I walk that every couple of weeks, I
Yeah.
do that walk back there, I walk along there, I look at what's, from the path out to the bulkhead and then around and all the way to the fishing area. And you're right, it needs a plan, what are we doing here and why? I mean, right now, it's just maintenance of what we have.
well, they put in a bunch of new garbage cans that are like cemented into the ground, and I thought to myself, like, who decided, like, not that it's a bad idea, but it just got me thinking, like, who decided that was what we're doing? And like, what's the form for that? And it wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
Probably Public Works.
Yeah, and so it isn't obvious where's the meeting we go to say, hey, just said, Belmar, and I'm curious, what's the plan for McCleary Park? Like, the
Did
town
anybody
council,
ever
they
ask
were
the
probably
town?
looking at
Yeah,
me like
did
I had
anybody
two
ask the
heads.
town? Does anybody ask the town what the plan is?
I have asked our liaison, and she did not have a quick and easy answer like that. I was hoping there would be. It was kind of like what you just said, like Public Works, but like what's the right way without antagonizing anybody and saying,
Well,
hey,
it
what are
might
you
be
doing
good
here?
if town
To
council
like
can-
ask that, and it would probably be, I guess, the town council meeting, just to stand up and say, who's in charge of the park and what's happening there?
Wasn't the town council?
Who's in charge is a non-confrontational question. Why isn't anybody fixing the problems? It's
Yeah.
not a confrontational
Well,
approach.
and I think saying something like, there's been a lot of success and recent progress with Silver Lake,
Yeah.
and so the Environmental Commission and other interested parties like Friends of Belmar Harbor are curious, can we do that? How can we maximize the asset and the resource that is McCleary Park?
I can tell you that what we've done for Silver Lake, we just did, and we didn't go and ask the town to do it for us. We could do
No.
the same for McCleary Park.
No, we
Just
just
did it.
wrote it and told them this is what we're doing, and Kate, that's the
They're like,
advantage
okay,
of having
that's
someone
okay.
like Katie on our committee. Katie
Yeah.
was really helpful in allowing us to have that freedom, because she would keep the council, the mayor, Kevin informed, and
presented to the council.
Yeah.
and that allowed us to be able to get, and allowed us to keep going, and, it's all been weighed out, but no one was in charge of it. No one had like that level of responsibility that we took over for the lake at that time, because the town, DPW is very, very, very busy.
Yeah, well, and that, I sense that, and that's why deciding who to ask and when and how feels really important.
Yes, it is.
To get off on the right foot when it comes to that. Like you said, not saying, who did this, but more like, who are the right people to talk to figure out what can be done to make it better and that kind of.
The key was that we were trying not to generate additional work for the town people, other than approving something, signing that this is what we were gonna submit, approving it, reviewing it, making sure it fit with everything they wanted. We tried to do all that, just because they're busy. The same thing when, you spent a lot of time coordinating the cleanups with our DPW, they're busy, and we can't, so it's the same thing, it's gonna be the same thing with McCleary Park, find out who it is, then you say, what you wanna do, and then you say yes, and it worked, I thought, pretty well. They were very helpful, they're very wanting to accept help, They don't want people to tell them to do homework.
Take the rest stuff over the wall.
Kind of like life, the way life works.
One last thought real quick that I thought of for the Sustainable New Jersey list
Yep.
of things that I know DPW does that maybe we could get credit for. They delay raking the beach, even though there are people out there today
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to, they delay raking the beach in May and June specifically because horseshoe crabs spawn there, and so to get the eggs that are laid there, the best chance of actually hatching and being viable. Because I think in the past couple of years, there were times where they would go out, I mean, if you look at the beach right now, it's got garbage on it, like it's got sticks and stuff. But to their credit, they haven't done that this year. I think like 2 years ago, someone did it, and we went and talked to the town administrator. But that's something that we're active, even though it's something we're not doing, it's something that we go out of our way to do for a particularly environmental reason.
Well, I also want to find out more about the Belmar Harbor group. I
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing, so that could be also.
Yeah, or, you know, maybe we could, I thought about asking them, like, give us, like, when all the work's done, like, give us a tour, show us the stuff where
Well, they
those
probably
things
have
are
it.
that they're doing
Yeah.
to get the Clean Harbor
Sure, yeah.
certification.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a boater, so I don't know what makes a marina green, but, you know, if they're doing it, they should get credit for it.
Just so you know, as I took all these notes, because I'm writing minutes going forward from Diane.
Thank you.
I'll send them to you so you can look at my.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate that.
One page for Clean Harbor.
Diane, can I make a public comment?
Sure,
That's-
yeah, yeah.
That's why it looked
Public
funny, so
comment.
that's why I reached out to the contact that's on here.
Yeah, we're still in
Someone
session,
wrote by-
so go for
wrote
it.
back like a week and a
Okay,
half later,
thank you.
like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that guy's not here
One second.
anymore, but let me put you in touch with somebody else, and a whole bunch of.
So a member of the public is asked to speak.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Thank you, everyone. Actually, Caitlin mentioned it. For years, I've been saving the plastic films at my home and taking them to someone's house. We all know who it is that gets them recycled. I wish Belmar had it. I visited the Avon DPW. They have the cutest dumpster. It's a little one, and people bring this stuff there, and they drive it to Mazza. It would be great if we had something in our DPW.
This is for plastic,
The
Plastic
films.
films.
Yeah, they
small
have
plastic bags that we have,
the end of
Yeah.
the water bottles.
yeah, everything that you get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all of
anything
that.
kind of shrink wrapped.
All
Yeah.
of that, they have, but
They have a separate container and.
they have a
just
separate
put it there.
small dumpster, the people bring it, and it's not even convenient over there, I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yeah.
You have to park outside or walk in. But it would be great if we had something at our DPW, and maybe we could partner with them for taking it over or something,
idea.
but
Yeah.
I don't think that where I'm taking them now is gonna be doing it forever, and they shouldn't have to, we should do it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be great if we could do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was nice to hear that Caitlin's already thinking about it.
She is, yeah. She's been talking to them about if they have somebody that picks it up for them or what companies they drop it off to.
It goes to NASA and they have to take it, but like I said, maybe we could partner with them.
Yeah,
You know, we both collect it and then one person maybe somehow,
yeah.
I think it's
that'd be
great.
great. And a second thing, my videos are for everyone, I don't know who knows me here, but I record meetings all over town. If you see zoning or planning board, I recorded them, so everyone's welcome to them. If you wanted to take them and repost them on your own Facebook page or wherever.
Okay.
So-
Ours is the one with the best looking people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay,
All right,
and with that, we'll close.
7:39.
Okay.
I even